I saw being started, I saw it with my dad and his close friends.
It's a fantastic attraction. It attracts young people because mainly of its foundation of friendship.
The question of fellowship is what is important in any organization, whichever organization it might be.
Though we disagreed on many issues, debated on them, at the end of the day, we didn't carry it home and build on it and became enemies. We became probably greater friends.
Be a family moment, and it was great fun for me.
In 1956, a few young Rotarians of Madras were feeling the generation gap. Being the only club, it had all the prominent and distinguished senior citizens of the city, and the younger members had to be at their best during meetings and fellowship. A thirst for the friendship of like-minded young men and an obligation to uplift the less privileged gave birth to a new movement in the country, the Madras Round Table 1. John Barton, Ethraj, Krish Chitale and Ram Fadke were some of the young men in the 50s who got together a group of like-minded young men. Barton, on his home leave in 1957, got Hastings RT number 21 in England to sponsor the Madras Round Table number 1, which was inaugurated by the Rotary Governor on November 14, 1957.
The formative years were very, very quiet. We really didn't know what we were getting into, in the sense that we were not Rotarians there, nor were we any associated with any organization. And having joined it, it took at least first 6 months or so to realize what is the kind of work that is expected from us and so on.
Between 57 and 59, the group consolidated by increasing their strength to 20, meeting regularly and involving themselves in small community service.
We used to go around in times of need, collecting old clothes, old books, which used to sell it or give it to people who needed it, and raise money those ways, small time money. We are not talking about today's kind of investment that goes into tabling.
Their first major project was to help the Mercy Home situated near John Barton's house. It was a proud moment for the Madras Round Table when over 150 orphan children were given a tea party in the spacious lawns at John Barton's house, Hadley.
And then you saw the projects that you could get, they were getting orphan children or donating old clothes. That was the beginning of MRT number 1 as a child, and then later on when I joined the table in 67, it had already completed about 10 years of its formative years, and during those formative years all I knew was that they were trying to establish themselves first in the city, and then they were trying to establish themselves in the country.
Round Table number 1, even when I joined in 1964, I came to realize, had done such a fantastic amount of social work from the 1960s onwards, ever since its formation, given away immense amount of money to various social organizations. One of them was, of course, Guild of Service and others.
It was also the beginning of MRT's pet project, the Pallipattu Boys' Home.
Basically, we would like to thank there's a famous lady called Mary Klambala Jadhav, who used to do a lot of social work in Madras. And because of her influence she used to run a lot of schools for poor people, orphanages, destitute people, so on and so forth. And the way she used to go out of the way to help poor people, we thought that's something that we should try and emulate. So we sponsored from it was nothing. I designed the buildings, and another friend of another tabler, S.N. Patel, he was a very big contractor. He built it, and that structure still exists after so many years. It is still doing well.
During 59 and 62, 6 tables were formed in Bombay, Delhi and Calcutta, and Round Table India came into being in 1962.
Madras Roundtable number 1 felt at that point of time, because there were very few tables in Roundtable India, and we felt as a premier table which has brought in the Roundtable movement into our country, we thought we should play a larger role in Roundtable India. Keeping this in mind, we felt that we should start new tables all across the country.
Literally, that threw open the eyes of tablers of what a big organization it was. And more important, it was that the tablers abroad started to have an insight of what India was and what Madras Roundtable number 1 was.
The group had small beginnings, but was already making a difference in the community.
You would find that in this organization, there's absolute individuality of each person, absolute frankness, and there is no, I would say there is no premeditated conversation at all in this group.
It was a new approach to fellowship that continued to help facilitate the increase in members and gave a boost to the movement.
Madras Roundtable number 1 therefore had the magnet of attraction for young people because it was based on a very strong foundation of friendship. And Madras Roundtable number 1 particularly represented every corner of this country, whether it be north, south, east or west. The members of this organization were part and parcel of India.
The Madras Roundtable entered into a new era when the second generation of tablers took over the reins of MRT in the year 1978.
And we used to have very friendly, free, open-minded debates. And what is nice is we used to have a lot of heated discussions. But at the end of the meeting, we were all back as one flock of birds. And we used to get together and have fun.
This period culminated in greater leadership, fellowship, and continued good work in community service. The motto of Madras Roundtable number 1 is Adopt, Adapt, Improve, taken from a speech of the Prince of Wales in 1927, where he said, "Young men should get together round a table, adopt methods that have proven so sound in the past, adapt them to the changing needs of the times, and wherever possible, improve them." This motto is seen and felt in all their projects.
And that is how, after a tremendous debate in the table, came the project of the Voluntary Health Services, commonly known as VHS. The basis of that ENT block was, for the first time, Roundtable number 1 erected an edifice which everybody could see that this was a work of Roundtable number 1. And as promised by Dr. Subramaniam, he got equipment promised by Germany, and that block became famous, and today VHS itself is famous. Now this was the beginning of the vision of Madras Roundtable number 1 and its members.
During 1978, when Anna Ramu, K.L. Ramanathan was president of the Roundtable India, the young next generation had drawn up extensive plans for the following 10 years. It is also pertinent to note that the members of MRT1 have always been leaders in their professional lives, having the impeccable talent of gauging the pulse of the present with an eye on the future. It was this leadership instinct which was nurtured further by the table and resulted in many RTI presidents, one WACO president, and an Asia-Pacific board member. What is more impressive is that the international posts were won by not mere nomination, but by democratic process at a world forum. This internationalization brought with it recognition not only for the table, but also for the nation in a world that knew very little about the true potential of this special group and India as a whole.
When the Palipattu Boys' Home was put in front of the world travelers, and there used to be quite a few roundtablers from all over the world coming in groups, see India, see Chennai, and whenever they visited Palipattu, which was the first visit, every child over there became a person, every child got a sponsor from all over the world. There was not a single country in the world which did not sponsor a child in Palipattu. And this was the vision, again, coming into the Madras Roundtable number 1. of projecting the child, projecting the physique, the health, the hygiene, the education of a child, which the whole world was then talking about.
Realizing that communication was going to play a key role in taking the movement forward, the Madras Roundtable developed its very own newsletter, Palm Leaf, that went on to win 5 Art Schwartz Awards at the World Council meet. The 80s saw Madras Roundtable 1 take new strides, but there were many variables that had to be tackled by this young group.
And I would say there was a great shift in the entire tabling that was taking place, not only in our table but in the entire country. And we were seeing a lot more younger people who were successful in their business and in their professional occupations, who were becoming tablers. And there was a lot of competitiveness coming between tables. And of course, the movement was growing at a very rapid pace. In fact, in Chennai, we started about 4 or 5 new tables in that period of the early 80s.
The following decade brought with it a new paradigm and a greater focus on fundraising.
During our time, we held the biggest fundraiser, which was the cricket match between India and Pakistan. We had tablers who went to Pakistan, saw that this went through. It was, of course, in a very big way sponsored by MRF, but it was an exposure which would run a long way, because now that's been, I won't say a guideline or a figure which people are trying to reach. But after that, the fundraising has gone higher and higher. People are raising more and more monies, which are good for all the projects.
The Indo-Pakistan match is still hailed as a milestone in Madras Roundtable fundraising history and established the image of Roundtable 1 as a group truly capable of accomplishing the seemingly impossible, with an aim on raising funds for its community service projects. Through and through, the Madras Roundtable 1 has always had a pillar of support in its circlers. These amazing ladies have stood by their tablers and have themselves contributed wholeheartedly to the growth of the movement. Their kindness and sincerity, a role model for women of their generations.
Circlers made a lot of difference. They helped not only in fundraising, they did a little bit of their fundraising, contributed at the table. Either it's in a movie event or a lunch event, organizing a social lunch. And also actively involved in community service, visiting the various homes that MRT1 was connected with, not only in Nile School, Clark School for the Deaf, and various other things. And every year MRT1 conducts a painting competition, sometime in January. And the whole thing is played by the women of MRT1. Though the tablers are actively involved, but the role is equal.
The millennium saw Madras Roundtable 1 take on new roles and focus on raising funds for their various projects.
I think the landmark fundraising events, which everybody would agree with me, from the time I joined the tabling was during 98-99. We did an event where we had Daler Mehndi, who had performed in Chennai for the first time, and that was a total sellout. It was a rocking night. The next was the Shah Rukh Khan night, which was in 99 April. Well, when you're dealing with Shah Rukh Khan, the King Khan, it's very different. You know, it's got a huge personality difference, and you had Juhi Chawla, you had 100+ artists who were flown down from Bombay, and you had the light and sound equipment which was trucked in from Delhi and Punjab, and there's a whole lot of effort which came in from all the tablers. I think that really brought the table together.
Palipattu got a new dimension, a new overlook, and a lot of work was done during these 3 years in streamlining this project. What was always a so-called a pet project, which is the wrong term to use, but which was the most important project of MRT1, got streamlined, got codified. The members and their wives were so involved in the day-to-day functioning of Palipattu that even today, on the strength of that planning, the institution is extremely well run.
If you can save a child, you can save the world. With the accomplishment of completing 50 years in service, MRT1 now marches forward. With new projects and aspiration based on the rock-solid foundation laid by generations before them, a movement comprising of a special group of individuals working with the one-mindedness of making the world a better place and believing that no man stands taller than when he bends down to help a child.